Welcome, everybody, back to another BOLDcast podcast, Hunter x Hunter edition. Today we're talking about a little thing that you might have seen called the most failure arc of our recording history of the BOLDcast channel.
Yeah.
The Killua retrieval arc.
We have had recording issues in the past, but usually it affects one episode.
Not
even
5.
one episode.
Yeah.
Not an entire arc. Alvin and the Chipmunks style.
Choppy. Yeah.
Alvin and the Chipmunks caught in the dryer.
I haven't edited at this point, but you guys are probably like either freaking out that like it was so bad and you probably didn't even finish watching it, or I don't even know what, because like it's so bad. I haven't started editing yet. We'll see how I do. Hopefully I did good enough that
it's somewhat
this is more of an
the
extra thing.
reaction is somewhat watchable. Definitely the discussions.
Yeah, all the uncuts
Probably
are
not.
obviously available on Patreon for that. In all of their horrible glory. I'll try. Yeah, I don't know. At this point, you've probably already seen them. So yeah, that was unfortunate, but it gives us an opportunity to really like go deep. Or, we'll see how deep we go, because it was a short arc, as is known. But
yeah, we weren't planning to do a discussion for that arc, because we did one, then recorded that arc, and we did one
for the Hunter exam arc.
Yes, sorry, we did
arc.
the Hunter exam one, which you probably just recently came out, because the only thing in between that would be the arc that got condensed into one episode.
Mm-hmm.
So we weren't going to do this arc because we thought, well, it's short. We had decent discussions during the videos. It's only a couple episodes long, and we had already recorded the previous discussion. We should have probably put it with that.
Yeah.
And it didn't really go with the next part.
Yeah.
Because it's just so different. But now, lucky you, if you like discussion podcast videos, you're getting this after all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
What do you think of the arc?
I liked it. I liked that it was short. First of all, I liked that they didn't drag it out like in other shows. If you're having a character retrieval arc, sometimes it can go on for a bit long, or be made too complicated, and like you have to go through too many tasks.
Yeah,
like I felt like there was just enough, like with the they even just going there is something that I've kind of liked about Hunter x Hunter so far. It's like, oh, we have to go to Killua. He lives on this mountain. We have to go there. Oh, let's catch a plane. Well, not a plane, but a blimp
Airship.
Or whatever. They just do that, and then they're there. It's not it's a story that's kind of like about the journey, but it's not. There's not a necessary journey where it doesn't need to be in it, and they could have had like 10 fillers there of them trying to find this mountain, and there wasn't, and it's just nice because it just keeps it snappy. You're never like oh, what's this mountain all about, and then you're there and you're finding out what it's about, and it starts
out with a literal tour guide that's telling them what the mountain is about.
Oh, this is the mountain. Here's the gates. This assassin family lives here. It's well known, which is also funny that they're like such a well known assassin family that lives on top of this crazy mountain. But the fact that they're so dangerous means that they can be as well known as they want. No one can really do anything about it. Yeah. Like all those guys that try to break in, and then Canary just beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
So I like that, and then I really also liked. I guess we can. I'll just kind of like go through what I remember.
It's your discussion. I've seen the show, so
yeah. I really liked as well the old guy. I don't remember what his name was. Who's like in charge of cleaning up the garbage from that creature, cleaning up all the bones that he sends back out, and the door and everything. I like that, and I also liked how he let them in. Was like, oh yeah, this is this is what's in here.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go back out. Okay, now train up and come back. And I don't know. It's just kind of, it's not what you would expect. And even later, and then you get to the fight with Canary, which is
not a fight.
Which is not really a fight. It's just going, just like running into her, and she's just pushing him back.
It's
repeatedly.
basically a Hanzo part 2 of like, I'm not going to give up.
It's his determination. And then she eventually gives in, and she just gets shot in the head, which is crazy. But then I like that then she wasn't actually shot in the head, because even though they're a family of assassins, they don't just kill their...
It takes too long to train a fucking Nen butler.
And also first of all, you need to find someone who's qualified, train them in your specifics. They need to be strong enough to, like... If you are like the highly trained family of assassins that live on top of this mountain, and you're hiring people to like protect and look after you and like your grounds, they need to be pretty qualified. Like you can't just have like some random guy.
They're not like a dime a dozen, but somebody you pluck off the street.
They have to be a butler as well as like badass enough to defend you.
They have to be, it's not just, it's etiquette. It's like how to, it's loyalty as well, which is the tenet that Canary kind of broke in Lady Zoldyck's eyes,
at
even
the same
though
time she was still
being
loyal
to
to
Killua. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I really like, I mentioned this in the reaction. I really liked, because we examined it and we kind of talked about the door, how the testing gate is a like base level requirement before you go into the place. So like they need to be at a basic level of strength and ability. So the fact that the entrance into that, the key to that door is it's like a level cap. It's like you get to here and they're level 10, but you need to be level 15 before you go through this part of the map. So they grind up to level 15 and then they go through. It's very video game like based or feeling like a lot of Hunter x Hunter is. So that's cool. I just like that. That's just a really easy. That's a really necessary place. Because in a lot of shonen, they have like a training arc, but it's kind of like, I like when Naruto learns whatever jutsu, he's like, I want to learn it. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is his impetus to learn it is like, I need to get stronger. But there's like, it's usually in response to learning something about how Sasuke got stronger, or like something he's like reacting to something rather than it's a requirement to get into somewhere. Like you cannot move forward. Like Naruto could learn something else, but he trains up because he's kind of driving the sword. It's just a different way of telling it. It's not like it's better or worse. It's just like this. It's just a cool way to like set the standard for what. And it's also what I mentioned. I don't even know how many people could make it through the reaction at this point, but I mentioned it's. I'm trying to find the word for it. It sets an expectation and it sets a bit of hype for the people that we're possibly going to be encountering, because they all are at least this level of power. So if we're getting through with all three of us pushing the door and we barely get through the first door, Killua gets through this many doors and he's not even the strongest one. Like it's just a very quick and visceral and visual way of power scaling.
Yeah.
But also it's immediately dashed because the arc is so short and everything is just kind of thrown out the window anyway.
But at the same time, it's good because we see, okay, he is capable right now of like, he is like absolutely jacked. He doesn't look like it, but he is. So later on when he's strong, it's not a surprise, or it's not weird because it's already established that three of them together can lift 2 tons or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, they can do anything at this point. And I think that's kind of what I like about Hunter x Hunter is like some of it is kind of wacky and crazy and they're doing like ridiculous things, but it makes like when you do things that establish that that's possible within this world, then it's not like a surprise or like, oh, that was kind of cheap. He just was able to lift this thing that no human should be able to lift. It's like Killua can lift fucking 6 tons.
Yeah. Well, it kind of is like that anyway, because we didn't see him train up to 6 tons. We just saw that he could do that. It's kind of the same thing.
We got told like Killua, we didn't see his training arc. Apparently, he's just been able to do that like all the time because they need to be so strong.
Yeah, but he was trained that way anyway. Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like that was sort of the demonstration of his ability. He's not like in the middle of a fight, like just randomly is super strong just because the plot needs him to be super strong. And we don't need to
spend like 10 episodes on them bodybuilding just so that later on they can still be strong.
Yeah.
We can have like a montage of them bodybuilding. Okay, it's established they can lift 2 tons or whatever, and great. good to go.
And that's all, like, we'll get into in the next discussion after Heaven's Arena comes out, because we've already watched it all, but once before they learn Nen.
Yeah.
That's all before they learn Nen, so that kind of changes things too.
And it actually the being able to move so much directly relates to what comes next in like being able to just defeat people so easily because he's so strong and he hasn't realized how strong that he's gotten. Mm-hmm. So this
is a question from Dino. Thoughts on Killua's home life? Sadson.
Oof. Pretty rough for him, not gonna lie.
All right, next question.
It's funny because like we come back and he's getting tortured, and then later on he's like, yeah, I was just doing that because I felt bad about like stabbing my mom in the face and
his brother.
Yeah. So he clearly wasn't like too bothered by it. Like he has been trained to endure such levels of pain, almost like in the Addams Family when they're like torturing each other.
They're very Addams Family,
and it's just kind of for fun, or for like not for fun because they don't have fun, but like
they just have an extreme way of normal. Yeah, their level of normal is very crazy.
And I think that's one thing that I really liked is so there's a few different stages to like this arc. First, you're like, oh no, is Killua like turning to the dark side or like going back to his family and like he's gonna go down that path and like sort of leave us behind? No, he's not doing that. Oh, is his family gonna like keep him there? Are they gonna torture him and like kill him, or what are they gonna do to him? And then it's weird because it does turn out very Addams Family-esque of like they're all super weird and very violent, and it's just not normal and not good at all. But for all of them, it is. So you have like the overprotective helicopter mom, the shitty brother who's like obsessed with anime and video games, and the mom doesn't care about him, but she does care about her special little boy, Killua, who doesn't want to be in the family business at all and doesn't, want that kind of attention. And then we have Killua like hanging out with his dad, and his dad is like, oh, let him go do what he wants, but he'll be back because like whatever, I know my son or whatever. It's just it's almost very anticlimactic from like other things that it could have been, and I do kind of appreciate that because not everything needs to be so dramatic, and it's kind of more entertaining to have these funny, like they're just flipping your expectations at every step of the way throughout the entire arc, because you just don't know what's going to happen, and based off of any type of similar situation in other shows don't really pan out that way.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, oh, that was interesting, and now and then you get the overprotective butler at the end doing out his own thing, and then they got like it's just it takes a lot of interesting directions. Even like when the mom shoots Canary, but she's not actually dead. Like there's just so many things like that where you're like, oh, it's this, and then it's not.
But the interesting thing, and there was a bunch of questions about that. I'll just mention some names who asked questions about this. Baseball Tomorrow and Dan Simmons. Shout out Dan Simmons. A couple people asked like the thing with Anti-Climax and the way that the arcs have kind of ended thus far within the Hunter exam, how Gon just like lost in the first round. He fell unconscious in the first round, but won. But and then everything was told through flashback. Like that's kind of like it was all building up to this big confrontation, this final battle sequence, and then we just like fall unconscious. And then in this one, how Killua, like there was this whole thing set up of this sort of dungeon crawl of through the whole mountain and then getting to the castle and possibly fighting his family or rescuing him or not or something. Or him being brainwashed possibly from all the torture, maybe. Like there's all this stuff set up, and then the fact that it doesn't, that's like a common thing that a lot of people asked. And what do you think about that? Just like the anticlimactic nature, because I think that it doesn't, it seems on purpose, but it also feels natural, and it doesn't feel like it's done for like oh, you thought that it was going this way, but I'm the clever writer and I made it go this way.
That is something to talk about. It when there are plot twists or just flipping your expectations around, it doesn't feel like some things can be written and you can tell the entire time the author has been sitting there like, I'm gonna set up this, but they won't be able to expect. They're gonna
think I'm so cool for totally flipping their expectations.
They're gonna be so shocked at this reveal that I just was an ass pull and didn't make any sense and doesn't fit thematically with my story, and now it's a completely different story. Like, what I like is that Hunter x Hunter, at least so far, has been very consistent in the way that it tells the story. So it's it can kind of do that because it's set up. The stakes are very low for like almost everything. You know what I mean? Like is
it about the stakes though?
No, it's just that like the feeling of watching the show. I feel like it feels very comfortable. It feels like it's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to have this sort of anticlimactic thing, but it's also okay, and it's not a letdown. Yeah. It's not like, oh, I was expecting this big thing, and then they ruined it, and it was lame. It's like, oh, I was expecting this, but then it was this, and that's funny or interesting or not what I expected, but not in not in like it's not like this. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like this.
Okay,
if that makes sense. Like it's not like they're pulling your expectations up and then like shooting them down and it's super erratic.
It's not in a sharp, consistent arc.
Playing with your emotions on like a huge scale. It's just and it doesn't ever seem unrealistic or so out of place that you're like, okay, this is kind of dumb and not what I wanted, and it never feels like it's not what I want. It's maybe not what I expected, but not actively against what I want out of the story.
Yeah, I think that Togashi sort of I feel like with the Killua arc is the biggest example of this in the story, of this sort of like I feel the opposite. I feel like it's a very sharp change in direction. It's a very purposeful change in direction, and it feels kind of unnatural. This one feels kind of unnatural, and I think that it is on purpose. And I think what happened, just like my impression, is that he probably got bored of writing the story. Like he set it up so clearly that it could only go in one direction, and then you're basically just writing out. You're just basically filling out an outline that you laid out at the start of the script or the start of the manuscript for the arc. It's like you probably planned it out. Okay, there's the testing gate. There's all these places we have to get past. Here's the first butler. Here's these butlers, and here's the family, and this is their whole dynamic, and it's kind of breaking down. We'll cut back and forth. They'll make it further and further. They'll get to the butler house, and they'll have a big fight, and then they'll sneak off or have to regroup or so. Like this very predictable thing, and it was so set up, and it doesn't seem like he didn't seem like he was setting up the arc from the beginning. Just the anime is also different because you're viewing it through a secondary lens of adaptation.
Almost a third because they already did an anime and then they did it again.
Sure, yeah, it's like
because if you're making a second adaptation of something, you can learn from like mistakes or the way that they did it the first time.
Yeah, and I think that because it doesn't seem like he set out to ruin people's expectations or to set something up only to go in a different direction. I think that he set it up clearly with the intention of going forward and with all these things that he wanted to hit that would kind of provide a very satisfying shonen arc, but kind of himself maybe got bored of it. And then knowing what comes in the next arc with Nen and stuff is like, it seems like if he was going to cut an arc, like the fact that he cuts an arc short and then in the next arc goes into Nen and the Heaven's Arena and all this other shit, and meeting all these different characters and really starting to build out the world of like there's a secret society of all these hunters who like know the secret magic power and stuff, and they only teach it to people who kind of have the potential or know or about it, and there's sort of an underbelly too, like the fact that all this world, all this stuff was set up previously, but that he cuts off this arc like in the middle before it really goes anywhere, and then goes into explaining a super complicated power system that grows and has way more complications further down the line. We learn about hisoka and shit like that. We'll talk about that in the next thing. But yeah, I think that it's on purpose, but also that sort of ebb and flow, that natural thing. Like, it was a purposeful sort of sharp right turn, because he could see, like, it's going in this direction. I don't see what the point is to following this, because I basically already said where this goes.
Yeah,
you know?
I think I guess that's what I mean when even though I guess it is a sharp turn from like how the story was kind of going before, it feels natural, because I think that it just makes sense to cut it short, because if perhaps he was feeling like that he was going to be bored to write this, it might have been boring to read or to watch as well. When you just watched, like, here's the hunter exam. These are the stages. We're going to go through the stages. Oh, here's getting Killua back. For some reason, just getting to him has these very specific stages that we have to go through.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, now we're at Heaven's Arena. There's all these floors.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, it's the same thing every time. So I kind of like it. And then I will say, then like later in Heaven's Arena, when they explain the whole thing, and then they're like, nah, I'm not interested in doing that anymore. It kind of solidifies
let's save all that for the next discussion. But yeah, I see what you mean. Well, is there anything else you kind of want to talk about? You kind of talked about everybody, about Canary, about the family, about what do you think of? So we talked about this in one of the discussions. What do you think of Sylva as a dad? Like, do you think that he's a good dad or a bad dad? Is he a good witch or a bad witch?
I don't know, because I feel like you can interpret that scene in a lot of ways, like of him just being like, oh, I trust my son to go out into the world and do whatever he wants, but I think he'll come back because he's my son. Or if he's like, he'll be back because I'll make him come back later. Or if it's like... that's clearly not the implication, though. Like, that he never intimated that he would drag him back by force. He wouldn't let him go if they had to drag him back by force. That's against the entire point. He's saying he's either like the point in asking that is like, is he... You know, does he really care about Killua, or is he faking caring because of what he said after, of like, I know he'll come back as he's my son, and that's all I really care about is him doing the family business. What do you think is more likely, or is it a mixture of both? I think it's probably a mixture of both. I think originally in the video I said it could be that he sees a lot of himself in Killua, and he is like imposing himself and what he would do, or perhaps what he was like at that age, onto Killua, and thinking, oh, maybe I wanted to go do the world, but I know that I would come back to my family. So I think, because I think he's like me, that he will eventually, as he matures, come to the same conclusion that I have, in which my family is important. So he will come back. I don't know. It's hard to say with Killua, because he literally doesn't really have any goals other than like not doing that, basically. Mm-hmm. So as of right now, I don't think so, but depending on events that happen in the future, he could come to that realization of, I do want to come back. My friend that I thought was cool was actually a serial killer. Even though I'm an assassin, I'm still not on the level that he is.
Serial killers are amateurs anyway.
Yeah, it's I'm not entirely sure of whether he would or not. I think that I will need to see more of like later on how his like wants and desires that change, or what goals he might have.
Well, there's only one way to find out, ladies and gentlemen. I guess I could look through to see if there's any more any more questions to get to. I feel like a lot of the questions that from the post were more focused on Heaven's Arena, because this arc's so short. Mm-hmm. Who's your favorite member of the family?
I really like the mom, because it was unexpected, and because she got introduced so Like she literally shot a child in the head immediately. But then she's clearly so insecure and so like she just wants her son to stay there.
Total control freak.
I think that was a really interesting way to play her, because you hear that he stabbed her in the face and this and that. Like I feel like that was the most unexpected and just interesting choice for that character.
Sure. Well, I think that's about all the questions for this arc. Yeah. Sorry this happened to the reactions, everybody. We'll be back with the Heaven's Arena arc starting soon, and you can get more of our opinions on that. We're going to record the discussion right now with the questions you all submitted, but you can get the uncuts on Patreon, probably early, I bet. See how far ahead we are. Hope you leave a like and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoy the discussion videos. We're going to keep them rolling for this show and many others to come in the future. See you guys in the next one. I'm Carson.
I'm Lindsay.
Bye-bye.